Hello, friends. Welcome to AWS Repost Live, the companion live stream to repost.aws, where we dive deep into your questions and use cases from the AWS Repost community. I always like to say the best community on the internet, guys. So I'm super excited to talk today about one of my favorite topics, elastic block storage. So I've invited two guests. We're going to dive into a number of different use cases. I'm super excited. Sadesh, let's get started with you. If you don't mind, do a quick introduction.
Yep. Hi everyone. My name is Siddesh Chavan. I am a senior technical account manager here at AWS office in Northern Virginia, and I'm also a block storage expert. So yeah, happy to share my experience and address some of the questions that are posted on live repost.
Sweet. Depesh?
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Dipesh Patil. I'm one of the technical managers here at AWS based off Dallas side and happy to be here, excited to be here.
All right. So, with a few housekeeping items before we get going, I'm super excited about this. EBS is everywhere, right? It's one of those fundamental services. So, I'm super excited about today's episode. But before we do, chat, let us know where you're joining us from down in the chat box, wherever that may be here on the screen. And if you're not already on Repost, be sure to head over to repost.aws, of course. Get signed up with your AWS account ID or your builder ID. Maybe I'll drop the link in chat as well. And be sure to hit our brief survey. It should take you like 2 seconds. There's no excuses. 2 seconds, fill out our quick survey. Really helps us to shape the content that we deliver to you guys. And so, again, without further ado, now that I have all of the bills paid, guys, let's go ahead and dive into EBS. Again, as I mentioned, EBS is one of those fundamental services, right, that almost every customer is consuming. One of the first services that many of us learn how to interact with. So I want to start with a question, I believe, that I've pulled from Repost, of course. And it talks about extending an EBS volume, a pretty routine use case here. Guys, where do you want to kind of dive in here with this question?
Okay, I can take that and kick off the things. So yeah, extending and live EBS volume. Specifically, I think this question is directed towards the root volume, and like this is a very tricky situation. But like before we like jump into how to extend and see some of the demo, like we need to understand like why there is a need for extending your existing infrastructure or existing block storage volumes. So as you may know that organizations are increasingly migrating their data and applications to cloud. The storage requirements definitely continues to grow exponentially. And this growth has been driven by many factors, including like data collection, data retention, like many customers from finance and healthcare domain try to retain their data for compliance purposes. There would be like mandatory log retention for certain companies, and in response to these evolving demands, like extending EBS volume has been one of the critical strategy for maintaining optimal system performance and ensuring the business continuity. uh, Also, like extending EBS volumes proactively addresses several technical consideration, like it prevents performance degradation, as well as it makes sure like you have enough system space for running your operating system, running your applications without any downtime. These applications include like databases, log retentions, log rotations, and many other things. So the best practices what the storage community suggests is like maintaining at least 20% free space on your EBS volumes to ensure the optimal performance, and and to handle like unexpected growth or unexpected scenarios where we run out of the disk spaces. This proactive approach to volume management not only help us prevent the emergency situations but also maintains the system's reliability and business continuity. So let's take an example of an website which is running on EC2 instance, and let's see some of the behavior, like when my system is running low on space, how does that website behaves. So if we can jump onto my screen share,
Wait, is this a demo time? I am required by law to do a demo dance. If this is...
Sorry,
I'll,
say.
I'll refrain from doing it for now, but
Okay,
we can see your screen. This is great.
okay, okay, okay.
So we're looking at the console. Looks like you have just like an EC2 instance, a T3, pretty basic. I assume we have some bound storage here. What are you going to walk us through here, Siddharth?
Okay, so as you can see, like this is a basic Ubuntu server, and the reason I selected Ubuntu instance is because the question was addressing Ubuntu operating system, and as mentioned in the question, like I have created this instance with a single root volume, which is in 8 GB of size. So, and you can see here, like there is a simple website which is running on this particular EC2 instance. So I'm going to create a scenario where we would be running low on disk space and how it will impact my business and how we can do the live extension of root volume.
Okay, so hopefully this avoids me getting paged. Again, I would prefer not to wake up at 3 a.m. when I run out of volume space here. So super applicable how I can maybe do this a bit more dynamically.
Yeah, sure, sure. So if it's okay, I can just start the demo.
Yeah. So if I understand the use case correctly, you have a volume associated with this T3, and you're going to maybe simulate expanding that volume such that it runs out of space, and then we'll see how we can maybe dynamically adjust that. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
that's the correct understanding of the use case.
Okay,
I hope like everyone is able to see my console.
I gotcha.
So in this case, you can see here, like this is a single root volume, which is currently 25% used. And my website is running very smoothly, no issues. I can reload, like go to multiple pages, no concerns at all.
Mhm.
So let's simulate one scenario. So I currently have like 5.7 GB. So let me create one 4 GB file. Yeah. And once this is created, you can see currently I'm running low on disk space. So currently my disk utilization is around 78%. And industry standard is like you should always keep more than 80% free space on your disk. But as the volume increases and as the data on my disk volume starts to increase, uh, in that case there is a possibility that like my website or my business may start to go down. So let's see, like I'm pushing more, and yeah, the website is already unreachable because like the load on my root volume has continuously been increasing. So let's see how we can address this issue without any downtime. So I will go on onto my EC2 console, onto my volume, click on this volume, uh, right click, actions, modify the volume. Let's increase this size from 8 GB to 15 GB. Click on modify, and there you go. The volume has been modified, but we need to make sure that volume is also modified on the disk itself. So here you can see this is my NVMe 01 volume. Earlier it was 8 GB in size, and now it has been increased to 15 GB. But we have not yet increased the root partition. So one of the important consideration here is that like if there is a root volume which has multiple partitions, you need to always make sure like there is a free space between first slice and the second first partition and the second partition. Only in that case you can extend the root volume. So highly recommend always take a backup of your root volume before making any changes, or before modifying anything to the root volume. So you can see here, sorry, in this case the start and end selector sectors are here, and like NVMe 0 N1 P1, like it starts from 227328 up to 1677182, and
Mhm.
this one is starting from 2048. So there is sufficient free space between these two slices. So let's open like one of the EBS documentation.
Docs are your friend. We'll drop this link as well in the chat for folks to evaluate this.
Okay. And in this case, we'll follow the steps for for Nitro instance, because this is a Nitro instance that we are using. So let's go and paste the command. Yeah. The partition has been currently resized. You can see here earlier NVMe 0N1 P1 uh, was 8 GB, and now it has been modified to 15 GB. And now we need to resize the root volume, like the file system, actual file system running on it. So let's go. This is the command. So this is the XFS file system, but currently, like our operating system is running on, I think it's on extension 4. You can very well check that using lsblk-f command. And you can see it's an extension 4 file system here, ext4. So let's resize the file system. Yeah, there you go. Our root volume was resized without any concern. The volume is at 15 GB. And let's see if it has any impact on my website. Like, was my website able to get back up and running? Yeah, in this case, my website is again up and running. So this is how you can extend your root volume without any downtime. But the important consideration here are like, you need to make sure like there is enough free space between a couple of partitions. Because, like Ubuntu AMI comes with pre-partition root volume, which may not be the case with other operating system. So be very careful. Make sure you are taking snapshot before modifying the root volume. Go to your console, modify the data, come to operating system, follow the documentation that we have attached in the link, and there you go. Like, you can simply modify the root volume without any downtime, and it will not impact your applications running on the server as well.
It's a pretty good demo, Sadesh. I really appreciate it. I saw a question come in from JibJab06. I think when you hit refresh and your web page became unavailable, and they asked if that was like a DDoS attack simulation, which the behavior might be very similar, right? The site's unresponsive. You might just get a basic a 404 when trying to hit that endpoint if you were hypothetically and hopefully, knock on wood, not under DDoS attack. But that's maybe another security episode of Repost that we can cover, but very similar behavior. Sadesh, I think I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Obviously, automation is king in this space. I think this was great that we were able to kind of go through some of these manual steps, but can you just give us maybe just a high-level overview? What your demos showed could we potentially automate?
Yeah. I mean, there are multiple ways, and there is one documentation that we are happy to share on this conversation. Is you can make use of multiple services like CloudWatch, Step Function, and AWS System Manager. So, like there would be a step function which will monitor your disk usage, a script that would be running in the backend, and as soon as your disk quota is above 80%, the step function will kick in. It will push in the system manager documentation, which is pre-published documentation for extending the EBS volume, and it will help you resize the volume to the next possible configuration that you have pre-configured in those settings.
I got you. So some ancillary topics or services that certainly our audience out there could investigate, right? To automate this even further, which of course we all love automation. Again, whatever helps me, Sadesh, not get paged in the middle of the night is ultimately the best solution.
Yeah. I mean, this is just the manual way of showing it, but anything that you can show manually is always automated, because ultimately these are the APIs that you need to put in your script. So
exactly. Okay, super cool demo. If you're just joining us, maybe you live under a rock and have never joined Repost Live, but we are Repost Live. I have my good friends Dipesh and Sadesh here talking all things EBS. and we just went through a really cool demo showing how you can adjust your EBS volume and maybe some automation that you can employ so that you don't run out of storage space, of course, and crash your cool e-commerce website. Is that what you have built there?
Yeah, I think luxury shop. It's just a fake website. Please do not visit this website ever again.
So a bunch of people tuning in from all over. Thank you guys so much. I saw Argentina. I saw people from all over. This is going to be great. Let's dive into another question now. I pulled another one. So really good insights around how to adjust EBS if you were to run out of storage space. But I pulled another question out of the repost hat. And this question specifically asks a common question I'm sure we all got, which is around the kind of performance characteristics of your EBS volume specifically. So this user, shout out to Shy, I believe that's how you pronounce that. And I'm also from Chicago, so shout out to Shy, who asked about how to check the number of write ops that an IO2 volume in particular, a specific EBS volume, is consuming. And of course, with any of those IO volumes, you definitely want to make sure that you are consuming what you have provisioned from a cost perspective. But I'll toss it to you guys. What do you guys think? How would I actually go about observing or understanding the performance characteristics of an IO2 volume?
I can take this one. So although the question is asking about monitoring, and I think the question has a couple of parts in it. One is about the period of the monitoring, and second one is how to actually interpret the number of IOPS that is being consumed. So, but before we dive into the monitoring stuff, let me quickly take a step back and give you an overview about these metrics.
Yep.
So when it comes to optimizing storage performance, specifically with EBS, understanding the critical metrics of IOPS, that is input output operations per second, and throughput is essential. So these two key performance indicators play an important role in determining how efficiently your EBS volume can perform data operations, which is directly impacting your responsiveness and the overall performance of your application. Now, what does this metric exactly measure? So IOPS measures the number of read and write operations a volume can perform in a given period, while throughput represents the amount of data that is transferred to or from the volume in a given time period. Now, why do we need to track these metrics, right? So by tracking these metrics, you can actually identify any potential bottlenecks, anticipate performance issue before it impacts your users, and make data-driven decisions to scale or optimize your storage resources. So when it comes to cloud, you always want to optimize your resources on what you are using, right? As pay as you go. So that being said, now how do we monitor these metrics? So AWS CloudWatch allows you to monitor these metrics for your EBS volume. Now I'll try to tackle the first part of the question about the period. So by default, CloudWatch supports a monitoring period of 5 minutes. What does that mean? It means that data is collected every 5 minutes, and that's what you see on your CloudWatch metrics. But if you have detailed monitoring enabled, then these metrics can be observed for a period of 1 minute. However, for a period of 1 second, that is something that is applicable for custom metrics from the OS level, which are collected when you use CloudWatch agent. Now, CloudWatch also lets you automate. We were just talking about automating stuff, right? So CloudWatch also helps you to configure alarms that enables you to have proactive alerts that notifies you when your metric thresholds are approached or exceeds them, and which allows you to make timely interventions to maintain consistent application performance. So let's go ahead and see how do we actually monitor these metrics on CloudWatch console. Are you guys able to see my screen?
I see what looks like a very sexy AWS console. Yes, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, that's the AWS CloudWatch console that you're seeing. So on the left navigation pane under metrics, we see all metrics. So I'm just going to navigate to the EBS metric for us. So when we come to metrics and when we select all metrics, we are seeing metrics for all the resources, but we'll be specifically going into EBS, and in EBS, we'll be selecting the per volume metrics. Here we see every metric with an volume ID, right? So since we are specifically tackling the right IOPS, I'm going to select that one first. So this is the volume ID that have, which is an IO2 volume as the question demanded. And I have a right workload on it. Let me change this 1 second.
Casa Brewing. So I see a bunch of different metrics here: read, write, consumed. Obviously, there's a number of those. I also want to make sure that the chat is aware of. We have some really good documentation around if you're doing metric math, right? Which metrics you need to kind of combine to get some of the output. So I'll definitely drop that in there. I actually saw a pretty cool Q use case, guys, where someone was using Q just to quickly get back which of those metrics to use, which I thought was pretty cool and a lot easier, I think, than maybe interpreting documentation on the fly. So
I think I'm having an issue with my console. Just give me 1 second. So I'm going to again go back to the CloudWatch metrics.
No worries.
Let me select the right IOPS, and there we go. So I have an IO2 volume here. Are you able to see my screen?
So I see a volume and what looks to represent read ops in the blue graph, which it doesn't look like you have a bunch of users. You might want to investigate that, and some write ops in orange.
Let me.
Live demo. Depeche, did you by chance pay the demo gods before we started this?
Yeah. Now you should see a metrics for write ops with a blue graph there.
We'll get you thrown back up on screen. There we go. Write ups.
Okay, cool. So when we go to the graph metric, a couple of things to notice here is one is the statistic. So we always have to select the sum statistic, which is nothing but the sum of all the values of the data points collected in the given time period.
Gotcha.
Now we see here 5 minutes, right? Now my EBS volume has an IOPS threshold of 3000 IOPS. However, looking at the IOPS, this number is way higher than what I have configured it for. But that is because the period here is 5 minutes. So to calculate the right ops for a given second, we have to add a math query. I mean, we have to divide the value with the period in seconds. In this case, it would be 300 seconds, but we can also use a math expression on the CloudWatch console itself. So what I will be doing here is we will be using M1, which is the metric for volume write ops that we have selected, and we will be dividing it with period for the M1 metric.
And so M1 is just the ID of that metric, right? That's what you're using.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Because I can see that expression then represents E1. So then if I wanted to do some metric math using that expression, then I could do it that way. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's correct. And now when you look at our graph, we do see the expression value that shows that the workload had an right IOPS of 2502.
So, Depeche, you mentioned that this volume can achieve up to 3000 IOPS, I believe, when we got started.
So this is that my volume was configured to 3000 IOPS. However, the workload on my volume is somewhere about 2500 with right ops.
I got you. So you provision that much, the mini IOPS, which is good. And now you're getting some empirical data about, hey, am I consuming what I provision, right? So that makes sense.
Yep. So that is how we can use CloudWatch to monitor the write ops. And if we want to monitor the total average IOPS, then we also have to select the volume read ops. And so when we go to the graph metrics, I'm going to remove the expression 1, but we'll add another expression that would be on the lines of write ops plus read ops, and it will be divided by the period of 300 seconds. That will give us the total average IOPS, which includes both read and write ops.
Total by, I'm just getting into some napkin math. Oh, 300 seconds represents the 5 minutes. Okay,
Mhm,
okay, I got you.
mhm,
And then I can see what I'm achieving. That definitely makes sense. Okay,
mhm.
easy enough.
EBS metrics are not easy to understand, so
Yeah, I was like,
it's fine. Yeah.
Yep.
well, that's why I have you guys here to explain it to our amazing audience. If you're just joining, repost live. Drop any of your EBS use cases in chat or questions. We'll take those live on air. But I have Depesh. I have the full team. Sudesh is here as well. We're talking EBS storage, in particular, how to understand how many consumed IOPS you're actually leveraging, right? Because the beautiful thing about the cloud is it's consumption based. There's a consumption based model, but customers aren't always educated on understanding what they're consuming, right? So this is a really cool use case, guys, to just ensure that you have provisioned what you actually need.
Correct.
Okay.
And one of the important factor to monitor your IOPS is because it also correlates for some of the volume types, such as GP2 volume type. It correlates with the volume size that you will provision. So it directly impacts the cost for the EBS volume that you will be paying for.
Yeah, it's probably low hanging fruit. Numero uno is over provision EBS for most customers, outside of maybe going to optimizing the EBS type that you're on, maybe, right? Going from GP2 to GP3 or an IO1 to another volume type that fits the performance characteristics. But I think this is super applicable. Depesh, did you have anything else here with the demo that you wanted the audience to kind of understand?
No, I think that's all I had for the
Okay.
demo.
So then I could then hypothetically, using what you set up, then I can alarm based on some of those metrics, right? If I'm perhaps underachieving or overachieving some of those thresholds, I can potentially leverage what you set up and then just go into creating an alarm. Is that accurate?
That's right.
Okay. Well, no, that's super cool. Again, understanding the performance characteristics of your workload, I think is super imperative for most of our customers. I also have a shameless plug for a previous Repost Live episode that we did, where we were teaching folks out there about microbursting, which is this weird gray area where you might be exceeding some thresholds that you don't quite have visibility to. And it ties back a little bit, Depesh, to something you mentioned previously, which is more granular fidelity of your EBS metrics that are admitted to CloudWatch, as well as some of the metric math and alarming. So I'll drop that link. I'll have somebody drop that link to our previous Repost Live episode. That was a super cool episode. But I mentioned provision previously, so let's take another quick question that actually asks specifically about provisioning. So Andrew Weiss, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you, Andrew Weiss, asked specifically about how to interpret the term provision as it pertains to EBS pricing, right? So the use case in particular says I have 30 GB, I'll say, volume with a reserved instance specifically, and only using about 20 GB of the 30 provision. So just curious what you actually pay for, the full 30 or the 20 that you're actually consuming. What do you guys think? What's the answer? Oh, I should
I,
Dipesh.
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
I'll take this one as well. So as we were just saying, right, cost optimization, it's a critical priority for organizations today with the competitive business landscape. So it's very crucial to understand the pricing of EBS volumes that's associated to your compute. Now, for the EBS pricing, let me give you a bit of overview about how the pricing looks like before we answer what provisioned means here. So for EBS pricing, the respect with respect to size, you are always charged for the size of the volume that you provisioned for. And so what does the provisioned here means? That is the volume size that you requested when you created the volume, or you modified it to at later point of time, like how we saw in the demo in the first demonstration, where Siddesh modified the volume size, that is something that is inculcated in this provisioned term as well. Now, some volume types such as IO1 and IO2, you're also charged for the provisioned IOPS and throughput. So, yeah.
So yeah, it looks like Joseph Malone was also right on it. The full 30 in all caps, Joseph. You would be correct. I'll send you a prize. that is accurate.
That's right. So to answer the question here about the size for which it will be charged for, it will be 30 GB irrespective of the data that is, or 20 GB data that it has on it. Now, we will always be thinking about how do we estimate the charges for my EBS volume, right? With respect to size, or let's say I'm going with a volume type IO1 or IO2, where I will be charged for the IOPS and throughput as well. How do I create an estimate? So AWS pricing calculator is an amazing tool that will be super helpful in such scenarios. So I would like to walk you through how to use AWS pricing calculator for this scenario or this question. Are you able to see my screen?
No, I have to do a thing. All right, there it is, pricing calculator. So hey, even more reason to understand what you have provisioned and the importance of telemetry. It couldn't be even better because you can save money. And who doesn't like saving money? No one.
Cool.
Okay, I got pricing calculator. Are you going to take me through how to estimate this?
That's correct. So we'll be creating an estimate. So when we hit create estimate, it asks us to select the region. Now it is very important to select an appropriate region as to where my workload belongs, because pricing may differ from region to region. Now, as for the service, we'll select EBS, and then we can hit configure. So here, as we see, for the number of volumes, we have one volume, and the duration of the volume is 730 hours. I mean, the duration for which my instance is up or my volume is present in my account. And for the simplicity, I'm going to select GP2 at the beginning. And as per the question, we will select the storage amount for this volume to be 30 GB. And snapshot frequency, let's just not have any snapshot as of now. But as best practices, you're always recommended to have snapshots or data backup.
Hey, wait, Depeche, say it again. Say it one more time for the people in the back. You need backups.
Yes.
Please. We are begging you. Repos live. I am begging you. Please take backup. Please. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then when you expand this show calculations, it shows you that you have, again, it just summarizes it for you that you have one volume that is running for 730 instance hours. So that makes total of 730 instance hours. Now, why are we calculating this? Because your volumes are charged per instance hours. So we will be having, as we can see here, when we have 730 instance hours divided by 730 hours in a month, we get one instance month. Now, the actual price here, the way it is calculated, is 30 GB of volume size multiplied by the instance month and the cost of the volume type per GB per month. That gives us $3 for this volume type for 30 GB. Now, let's say if I go with some other volume type such as IO1, as we see here, it also asks us about the provisioned IOPS. So in this case, if let's say if I go with 4,000 IOPS, now when I see my calculation, I have charges for my EBS storage as well as for the IOPS that I have provisioned.
Yeah, okay.
And
so I get that line.
And the instance month as well as the charges. I mean, the instance month remains constant for both the storage as well as the IOPS cost.
Okay. Yeah, this is super helpful. I know mixed reviews on the pricing calculator from folks out there, but this is super helpful, at least to go through the exercise. Again, I think the important takeaways definitely are, if you just joined us on Repost Live, we started with a demo about dynamically scaling routes. We then moved to a demo showing you all about observability and how to get some of that info to ensure what you provision you're actually consuming. And now we're here in the pricing calculator. So it definitely can't stress enough ensuring that you have good telemetry setup so you know what you're using. I also have a quick shameless plug as well about our enhanced pricing calculator that I'll throw in chat. Made some improvements that we announced around reInvent. We covered those here on Repost Live, of course, and others on AWS On Air and some other publications. But the enhanced calculator will take it a step further and give customers the ability to leverage a bit more of their own personalized data to do some of these pricing calculations with a bit more context, which I think was super cool for our customers to enhance their forecasting capabilities within AWS. So we're always listening to you guys. I'll drop that link in there if you're curious about the enhancements we made to the pricing calculator. Even innovation knows no bounds, gentlemen. We apply it to everything, even the calculator. So this is super cool. I think this, again, it shows me kind of those line items of what I'm paying for. And I think this is very, very helpful. How often do you guys use pricing calculator? Pretty often or no? Just going through it? Do you just do it for the show? I don't blame you if you did. Chat, let us know if you've used the pricing calculator recently, or do you just kind of provision EBS and wait until someone screams for the bill? Because I hope that's not what you're doing, but it's more than likely what most of you are doing out there. So yes, Tech Hunter, yes. With chaos in your name, I presume we're just blindly provisioning beefy IO or provision IOPS volumes out there and throwing caution to the wind, of course, until someone from FinOps comes and knock on your door. And I caution you to take a different approach. So super good demo. Let's get in one more question. I think we have time for one more question, guys. Again, chat, feel free to let us know where you're joining us from, or if you have any questions, we'll take those live on air. Anything about EBS, anything, throw us a curveball. We'll take anything. But the next one, I begged and pleaded with you guys about backups. This next one is about backup. So specifically the support for EBS snapshotting within the AWS backup service. Who wants to take this one?
Yeah, I can take that one. Yes. So yeah, I mean, since throughout this session we have talked about like how to extend the volume, performance, pricing, but like this brings to a very important thing, which is like data protection. I mean, data protection is definitely essential for safeguarding your critical business information, ensuring operational continuity, maintaining regulatory compliances, and protecting against the data loss, security breaches, system failure, like that could definitely impact your business. So data protection is very, very important feature of block storage or any storage for that particular matter. In reInvent of 2022, we had announced like EBS snapshot archive tier, like which is a low cost long-term storage tier for rarely accessed snapshot. So by default, when you create a snapshot for your volume, it is stored in a standard tier. But now you have capabilities to move some of your snapshot from standard tier to cold archive tier, which are like 75% cheaper compared to your standard tier. And this means that you can save lot of money, at least 75% compared to your standard tier when you are storing those snapshot for more than 90 days, or you are storing it for regulatory or compliance purposes, like for years and years and years.
Wait, hold the phone. I can save money 75%.
Yeah, 75% compared to the standard tier of EBS.
What do I have to do? Where do I sign up? I have to push a button or something? How do I do this?
We'll see. Jay, I can understand the excitement. But before we jump into the demo, like a couple of important points that you might want to understand is like whenever you archive a EBS snapshot, the incremental snapshot, like by default, every snapshot that we take of volumes are incremental in nature. Like that means snapshot one and first snapshot will be the full snapshot of your data, and second will be capturing only the delta changes. So whenever you are migrating incremental snapshot to archive tier, that incremental snapshot would be converted into a full snapshot, and then it will be migrated to archival tier. So if your volume has 10 snapshot, just be very sure that you are migrating 9 snapshot from that particular cycle to archival tier to have the maximum saving. There is no point in migrating first snapshot or second snapshot or the last snapshot. So always take a right decision, like what snapshot you want to migrate to the archival tier. And like when you migrate those snapshot to archival tier, one thing that you want to remember is like the retrieval time is around up to 72 hours for restoring that volume from archive tier to standard tier, and then you can restore volume from that particular data. uh, so some of the typical use cases that you might come across for this scenario is archiving the snapshot of volume, such as for an end-to-end project snapshot. Then like if you're running any healthcare business or a finance business and you want to retrieve and you want to store this data for years and years for compliance purpose, that's one of the great use cases for that particular for EBS archival tier. So without wasting much more time, like I think I have already spoken about this, let's see like how we can use that using AWS backup service. And the question was, does AWS backup service supports EBS archival tier? So yes, this was recently announced in 2024 that EBS archival tier is supported under AWS backup service, and we can see how we can configure that. Let's go to AWS backup service.
Do you see how I'm orchestrating the screen share?
Oh,
okay, so I can go in a AWS backup, and again, I guess if you've lived under a rock, AWS backup, as the console cleanly states, is a service built for customers to centrally manage backups, right, across multiple services, including EBS, but other services as well. Okay.
Can you see my backup console, like backup dashboard on my screen?
I can indeed. It looks like we're in Northern California.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so let's create a backup plan. Go ahead, click on backup plan. You can start with a template, but let's start it from scratch. Let's name this as archive cold tier. Okay. Backup rule name, let's say retention for compliance purpose. Sorry for the typos. Move it in the default vault. You can create your own vault as well, but for simplicity, I'm keeping it as default.
Okay.
The minimum frequency for having EBS archival tier supported under AWS backup service is monthly. So I'm going to go with that. And the backup frequency is monthly. This is the first day of month. Start time is 12:30 Eastern, midnight. You can select any start time as per your requirement. Start within 8 hours of 12:30 and complete within 7 days. So if this backup is not completed within 7 days, your backup dashboard will show it as a failure. Important thing, you need to make sure you are keep moving your backup from warm storage to cold storage. Make sure you are clicking EBS archive Amazon snapshot tier. That's the question was. And yes, you can very well select the archival tier. So total time in warm storage is, I'm just going to keep it for 2 days. So when you take a snapshot, it will, at the end of like every month you are taking a snapshot, it will be in standard tier for 2 days, and then it will move to archival tier. In archival tier, let's say I'm storing it for 1 whole year, and you can select what region you want to copy this snapshot to, but for simplicity, I'm going to stay in the same region. You can add tags to that particular recovery point, but for simplicity, I'm just going as it is. So I have created this backup plan. Then I'm going to include specific resource. Resource type is EBS in this case. And instead of all volumes, this is the volume that I'm going to select. So this is the same volume on which my beautiful sales website is hosted. And in that case, you can name this resource. I'm going to name this as compliance resource. And voila, I have assigned this resource. And under backup plan, my archive to cold tier backup has been created. And you can see here, archive Amazon EBS snapshot tier is enabled. And it basically gives summary of this particular storage tier, like backup plan, like transition to cold storage after 2 days of taking snapshot. Start within 8 hours of the time frame mentioned. Complete within 7 days. Total retention is 1 year. So yeah, that's about it, about AWS backup service for you with
So
support.
super, yeah, I think super straightforward, right?
Yeah.
I think I would also, Sadesh, as I kind of asked about your earlier demo, again, I'm always looking for marginal gains, baby. So where in this could I potentially leverage this to automate, right? How do I, if I didn't want to go through this, I assume I can access much of what you just did programmatically and maybe set up backups or more compliance through just tagging or something, right? If I have to do this at scale, just give me some ideas about how I can do that.
So, I mean, whatever I am doing through console, like we have APIs for that. So you can very well leverage those APIs under your script, and you can trigger those scripts. So you can use CloudFormation, you can use Terraform, or you can use regular Python script to automate this process. But currently, I don't have like technical details on what is
No,
the
no, no, no,
name
no.
of API, but this is very well possible to automate.
I got you. I got you. So super cool. I think definitely I would be using this again. I'm gonna look directly in the camera and just plead with you all. Please set up backups. Please, again. I just anything to anybody out there that has the pager is gonna appreciate me for saying this. I definitely would appreciate if you just take some of Sadesh's guidance here and set up backups. Super easy to do. There's a lot of guidance out there about how to set this up programmatically. I think the other thing I would call out is I remember recently I'll give a shout out to some of my colleagues who wrote an article about air gap vaults. I know you mentioned using just the standard vault in AWS backup, but if you have an air gap need, I'll drop the link to leveraging AWS backup with logically air gap vaults. Those are super cool use cases as well. So super cool. Looks like I got a comment from Tech Hunter Chaos. Maybe out of scope question, but do you have resources for backup and restore when everything is in Terraform? Once we restore from the Terraform state is drifting. Interesting. What do you guys think about this? I know I have a few resources that come to mind for Tech Hunter.
Really need to understand the use case in more detail to recommend the Terraform.
I think, and Tech Hunter can elaborate, I think they maybe just want to programmatically use Terraform at IAC to set up AWS backup jobs, maybe,
Okay.
if I understand correctly. And Tech Hunter, if you're out there, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just believe that Terraform is their IAC of choice, and they just kind of want to leverage that to deploy or set up AWS backup.
I'm pretty certain it's supported, but I need to look up the specific documentation to share.
Okay.
Okay.
Tech
If you
Hunter.
can move, like stop my screen, like I can quickly look up.
Yeah. No worries at all. Yeah, we can definitely take a look. And if we, of course, run out of time, you know where Tech Hunter can get this question asked or answered. Do we know? Pop quiz for you, Depeche. If we run out of time, where could this question be answered? I'll give you $1 if you can answer it.
Let me think. Oh, that's the repost.
Repost, of course. You can just go to repost as well, Tech Hunter, but a shameless plug, of course. We'll see if we can find that answer for you. So, Sadesh, while you're trying to see if it is supported, yeah. I'd ask. Oh, did you already find it?
I did post it. Like,
oh man, okay, we answered super quick. So, Tech Hunter, hopefully you get that answer out there. What did you find, Sadesh? Do we support Terraform? I think we do.
I mean, Terraform is supported for multiple services. Like backups. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was just looking for a specific module for.
Yeah, right. For AWS backup. Yep. I got you. Okay, cool. So we'll drop those in chat again. Tech Hunter or anyone else out there who joined us today. If you have any questions, I know I'm joking, but seriously, you can ask those on repost. either myself or the entire community or some of our sneaky AI bots might answer your question super quick. So be sure to leverage that as well. I want to thank you guys for joining us, Dipesh and Sudesh. I know we went through a number of use cases, right? We started with how to adjust an EBS volume on the fly, super common use case for almost anybody who's using that. Again, with a bit of sprinkle of how you might be able to leverage automation to do so. Then we looked at CloudWatch for anybody out there who is using CloudWatch, or maybe you have another observability platform of choice to observe the performance characteristics of your EBS volume. I think our question in particular was IO2, but it's applied to any EBS volume, right? And then we looked at using AWS backup, of course, which is something that, again, I beg and plead with the audience to leverage for backup at scale, unless you have some other platform out there of choice. So did I miss anything for our global audience out there? Do you guys have anything else that is super important? What other wisdom can we impart on our beautiful audience before we adjourn for the day?
I mean, data protection is important. So whatever you do, if you are not protecting your data,
don't sound so excited, Sudesh. Yes, it is important.
I mean, Jay forgot to mention that. So
yes, I'm sorry. Protect your data, please. Protect your data. We didn't have time to go through the share responsibility model, but put succinctly, we protect everything in the cloud. It's your job to protect the stuff that goes into the cloud. It is magic and mysterious, but not that quite mysterious, I guess. Please protect your data. Anything else, guys, that I missed?
No, I think
No.
those were very great questions that were posted, and glad we were able to address those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So drop those questions on repost, and who knows, we might take some of your question and make them the topic of our next show. But if we didn't answer your question, as I mentioned before, you can head over to repost.aws and get signed up with your AWS account ID or your builder ID and start expanding your AWS cloud knowledge right this second. You can get connected with myself or Sudesh, Dipesh, and other folks who are using the AWS repost community globally. So please join repost.aws. Head over there so you can stay up to date about all the cool things, including when the next Repost Live show is going to be starting. So you can follow the Repost Live tag as well, and you can start that conversation about the next topic. So be sure to hit, I think somewhere the chat is there. We dropped a link to the survey. Please hit that survey as well. Let us know how we did, or if you have any other feedback that you want us to incorporate into the show. So I want to thank my guests again. Thank you guys so much. I feel like I learned so much about EBS that I'll take back to me and when I work with my customers and help them scale their workloads on AWS. So thank you guys so much. Again, join us on Repost Live next Tuesday. What is the fifth? Where I don't know when our next one, but next Tuesday we'll be on at 2 p.m. Pacific. I think we're talking about RDS, if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, major support. It's right below me. Jeez. Support for Aurora and RDS databases, an item that I know a lot of customers have already started to ask me about. So be sure to join us March 11th at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, where we are going to dive into that topic. So thank you guys so much. I'm really excited for our next show. Thank you guys. Thank you, global audience out there, for joining us. And until next time, happy building, guys.
See you guys.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you.